Yeah, it's not the best name if you want to go internationally. It's true. Not even the Germans can pronounce it. The French, but maybe it was also a good idea. I haven't figured it out yet. It's too late. I haven't heard of IDF, yay, so the feeling was mutual. No, it's fascinating how much you can be in your own world and pretend not to be. I also don't, I hope I'm going to share a little bit of what we encountered. I'm going to try and share, yeah, this works, 6 moments in interactive theater that I encountered, and hopefully you will get something out of them. Casper learned a lot from us, from the company, due to the book. You see me in technology, I'm so bad at it. I got it, all right. In the book, All Work and No Play, so if at any moment you want to dive a little bit deeper what I'm saying, of course come to the show, which is the most ideal thing. But we've tried to make a book that is a sort of recipe book. So if you want to make a performance like this, there's recipes, 9 blueprints we call them, for the performance we do. The first one is the one that also is being performed here the 20th. It's called Lies, or pound, yen, euro, dollar. Anyway, it's about money. And I invite the audience, it's also playing, if you can't see it, on Wednesday next week here in the DocLab for 3 days. And I invite you to be the 1%. You are, so the audience members are seated around croupiers, we call them. We can do 82 people, or depending on how many tables. And basically, I try with you to be the 1%, and to go from maybe the accountant we remember from when we were really young, you know, the boring banker, to the coke snorting porch driver at the end that we're dealing with now. So I want to take you on that journey. And as you maybe can see, it's all analog. Everything we try to do is with chips or dice or cards. Even the central board where the information and the rating is there, the Moody rating you could say, or the 2 other ones, is analog. Because we felt that from the moment we introduced digital elements, people blamed their how to say that they didn't know enough about money, and they blamed it on, yeah, but it's the computer. And the problem is, like, money is not so difficult. It's made difficult and complex, and I think nobody really controls it. But by taking out the digital element, people couldn't blame their unknowledge, you could say, on something that they didn't grasp, even though it's so in our lives. I felt with tryouts that it was better to exclude it, so they could process the information honestly, you could say. Or if analog is not the same as honest, but I felt that it helped there. The show also is, I was thinking when people talked about Frankenstein, or when you think about AI, the show is also showing that we are capable of creating something and then don't control it anymore. And it takes over our lives. A typical fear, of course. That's maybe sometimes grounded, sometimes it isn't. I'll go back a couple of years, because we've done a lot of shows, and some of them are interactive and some of them are not. I'll repeat it a couple of times. I don't like interactive theater. It gives, every time I have to do something, I'm like, oh no, it's a workshop thing. I get to discover myself. I hate it. But the thing is, the beauty about theater is that sometimes you just have this possibility. Like, for instance, with the bankers, we are used to being outside. We are used to being the 99%. And sometimes theater can put you in this perspective where you are in control. But the problem is that sometimes some interactive theater demands a lot of contribution in order for the show to work. And I think my journey, or together with the group, is like, how do we not need that, but still that you feel relevant. Like, for instance, we had to fill in these papers. I like it. I'm immediately writing it down, and yeah. And I'm like, but what are you going to do with it? It's all useless. And then, oh, it's on the board. And then I'm always between disappointment and willingness. So I try to deal with that a couple of times in our shows. First show we did, Smile of Your Face, 2005. A sensory 25-minute journey of the imagination for one visitor and 8 performances. This is the introduction in the book. Every time tries to explain it, how it works. Basically, we wanted to change the normal setting of a theater. So normally you were with a lot of people. In this one, you're alone. We played 8 hours a day for one visitor every 5 minutes enters. Mostly you're immobile, so we wanted to make you mobile. Mostly you can see, so we blindfolded you, and you can use your hands, and we tie you up. And you're on a journey, a sensory journey. Like the bottom one is the visitor. You talk with somebody, a stranger on the bed. You walked around, or sometimes get out of the chair. We take a picture of you, a Polaroid picture. And at the end, this is in the Brakke Grond, this is in this space. We had so many people that visited us that like this whole wall was all pictures of all the people who saw the show. So at the end, you're sitting here, I was sitting there, and then your wheelchair is driven out while you see everybody who has been there before you. The moment I wanted to share was our first international tour ever was in Morocco. We went faster to Morocco than to France or England, and so it was also a very profound, influential tour. Because we basically went to poorer regions and richer regions like Marrakesh, but we also went to Oujda, like cities where financially it was very hard, so that we were part of a sort of cultural tour to help. I don't know what we were supposed to do, right? But it felt nice to try and do something. And we had somebody with us to change the show for another culture. We had somebody, an advisor, to help us adapt it to Moroccan culture. And we didn't have to change anything, they said. Only after a couple of weeks, the religious commission came over. And there's one moment where we have a St. Nicholas figure, a female St. Nicholas figure. No Zwarte Piet. We knew that was, that wouldn't make sense. And she gives food, candies, of course, to the visitor. And we had to change that. We were not allowed to give food because they were afraid we would baptize people secretly in the show. And we did. It's a show about trust, so we didn't see any problem changing it. Internal is another show I wanted to share. I wanted to see is a one-on-one performance, but for 5 audience members. We also play 8 hours a day, and we do 5 people every half an hour. And I wanted to see how fast can you build up a meaningful relationship with a stranger. And I do have to say, really fast. I was amazed myself, but I'll share the moment with you later. First, explain what the show is. 5 audience members enter. There are 5 actors. In the beginning, they just look at you, and then you feel that they divide you between themselves. And then they take you. It's an old show, so it's an old picture. Sorry. They take you with them in a little cabin where they have a short conversation, sometimes in silence. Each cabin is different, and they give you a drink. And some people called it a speed dating show. It's true. A part of it was speed dating, but it could also be more about friendship or profound talks or fears. And then there was this circle afterwards. I think after 8 minutes, you're in a circle, and the couples, so each time a performer and a visitor, share their experiences with the group as a sort of, you could say, relation therapy session. And sometimes this is a French kiss between a performer and a visitor. Sometimes there were people walking out. Sometimes there were it was a huge controversy in Edinburgh, the theatre festival, but the Scottish or the British also love a little bit of controversy, so it was also like nice, you could say, but I didn't control it anymore what this show was about. And I remember on the tryout, afterwards there's a little dance, and the moment I wanted to share was after the tryout, when we devised the show, when we tried it out. Was of course difficult and trying to find a language or trying to see how this works. And after the show, a couple broke up. After the show, and we heard it from the person behind the bar. He said, oh, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? My customers, they were screaming here. And we had a talk with each other, with the group, after 8 hours, a little bit drunk, because we also had to constantly having drinks. And later on, we learned not to drink the drinks ourselves. And we had a conversation, and I was pretty bluntly saying, we should stop this show. This is absurd. I want to make the world a better place, naively or not. And I don't want to make sure that breaks up couples. And funnily enough, the girl who broke up overheard the conversation. And she put me at my place, and she said, it could have been anything. Could have been a book, could have been a play, it could have been an argument, could have been my mother-in-law. Like, you were not the reason. You're a catalysator. So don't take too much responsibility, but also don't take too much credit. And I like that. I like that idea, because later on there was also this moment where, no, it's too much. It's another story. But okay, but there's stories to tell there. People open up beautifully, and I learned also over the years to try to take care of it more instead of just discovering it. Because in the beginning we were amazed how people can open up so easily. So you also try to take not credit but responsibility. At this moment, I was going to look at the clock and see if I could explain the show or not. No. Too bad, because I think it's the best thing we've ever made. It's true. But it's a 25-minute journey through a mirror palace of personal projections. The problem is that the book explained, the show is hard to explain. Basically, we create a physical avatar out of you. So your image will be thrown back at you in several ways, most of them physical, most of them in... A critic once called it a performance about the space between yourself and the mirror and how you come across. But it's a difficult one. So sorry, maybe later on or next year, or hopefully you can see the show because we still perform it or read it in the book, but I don't have the time to go into it. It's pretty intricate and difficult, although as a visitor you never feel that, but to try to explain that experience is a hard one. It looks like it's about surveillance, but it isn't. It's just a collection of all the visitors that we've seen, or some of them. When I talked about the technique I didn't use in Lies, the most recent version, for this show we did. I had the idea a couple of years earlier before that, but the idea was that as an audience member or as an audience, you can vote actors off stage. And it's a fun idea. It's like, oh yes, I don't like him, let's vote him out. And of course, one we know also by the game shows and all that. But it was, of course, like, I mean, for me, it was a show about democracy. Why do we vote? So there were 5 performers on stage and one sort of host. And then the host also becomes one of the candidates. And it's like, it's a whole of sort of also critique on democratic processes as the best of the worst forms of government. But the problem is when we conceived the show, you know those voting devices that they sometimes use in congresses? It wasn't really, when we conceived the show, when we tried it out, it wasn't really, people weren't used to it yet. So when we introduced it, people were constantly looking at it and constantly like distracted by it. And it was also a little bit too expensive at that time. So we waited. Because I think as a theater maker, when you use something you use a sort of technical element, people have to get or be already used to it. Otherwise it becomes about the thing, or otherwise it's a distraction. Sometimes I had that with VR, it's more about like, oh, whoa, this can happen, instead of by something else. And of course I'm a bit conservative on that, but I didn't want to make this show unless people were completely comfortable. And even now, when we played the show, we've played it now over 300 times, I think, people are still suspicious. Does this really work? And it's really simple. It's just a Wi-Fi Bluetooth connection. Everybody knows it, but people are still suspicious about it. But because the show is about voting, and of course the metaphor to voter fraud, or like that you never really trust the system, felt nice to me. So we didn't worry about it too much that they distrusted the system. I want to end with the last show. Maybe the look. Sometimes when you look Ontroerend Goed up, they will focus on the more controversial shows that we've done, and Internal was one of them, and this one is the second one. It's not always intended. It's just that I think as a company we look for, to look for how do you say that? If art is not challenging, why bother? I always say, but sometimes challenging can be. Provocative, and I think provocation is not always the most ideal way, because then you lose communication. But still, this one was for me an homage to the beauty and danger of being an audience. There was no stage, there was just a screen and one cameraman on stage, and the actors were sitting in the audience. So basically you were filmed the whole time and you were always part of an audience. In the beginning, I will show the trailer to end my talk. You'll see that we zoom in on the people and on the hands of Ove, and like the beauty of you all listening to somebody, or looking at somebody, or looking at the previous people. Like, I wanted to pay tribute to that. But we also collected, when you came in, we collected your clothes, and then we did a fashion show with the clothes. We also emptied your bags and filmed it, what was in it. The clothes were real, the bags weren't, but that didn't matter, people believed it. It was a party, there was firework, because we also wanted to feel that you sometimes can, the power you have compared to me here alone is huge. Like, we also wanted to make you feel that danger. It's completely about audience manipulation. And there's one moment that I think it was, for me it was an important moment of the show, but it overshadowed a little bit the whole show. It started when I was at a stand-up comedian show, and somebody, the stand-up comedian, they do it on the first row. They start bashing somebody. Or laughing with somebody, and everybody thinks it's really funny. They did it, the stand-up comedian, Hans Steven, as the Holland Dutch people may know, started bashing on my girlfriend. Like, calling her bitch, she had to clean up the stage, and everybody was really laughing, and I wasn't, of course. Like, I couldn't do anything, because then I would be the white male knight thing preventing, and maybe she didn't want me to intervene, and I was like, oh, I didn't do anything. And then I was ashamed that I didn't do anything, and like, excruciating. And also only about me, like, not about what did Charlotte feel. So it's like too much me. So I wanted to have this moment in the show, so we asked the audience there's an audience warm-up guy, and he would be here. We wanted to recreate this moment, Casper, but I don't see the actor anymore, so we couldn't. And so he would warm you up, guys. And he's very good at that job. And at the end, when he's warmed you up and you've done a standing ovation, he would start bashing, for instance, on you. Yeah. And he would put the camera on you. And he would push it so hard until the audience would react. And he would give money to other people of the audience, so they would scream that you would spread your legs, and that they could film it on a camera. It was not funny. It was a heavy moment. And in the beginning, we didn't use a plant. It was It was a normal audience member, like you would do. And we almost had a lawsuit on our hands, not by the girl, but by somebody else who thought that was inappropriate. And in the beginning, I was like, no, it has to be real. And then I think for the 200 shows after that, we used the plant. And it became a better show because of it. But basically, I wanted to create this, because like I said, I don't like interactive theater. I don't like to interact. So I wanted to make something that if I didn't interact, if I didn't intervene, it's a choice. And a show forces me to, like, my inactivity to intervene on something that I don't agree with, whether it's a show artistically or not. I'll share the trailer, maybe because that explains a little bit more what we do to end the talk.